everybody and welcome to The United Stand. This is your latest transfer news and a reaction to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's press conference, which has just been completed in Singapore, and some very, very significant questions answered, and I would say not answered. I mean, look, Lukaku, to me, I know there's talk today that maybe Inter Milan don't want to pay the money. Lukaku's not fit again tomorrow. To me, Lukaku's situation is this. He could still be a Manchester United player next year, but at the moment he wants to go to Inter Milan. That is why he's not fit. I think if he was a United player, he would be involved, and that's just my opinion on it. But I want to start off on transfers, because this is, there is a frustration growing around Manchester United, and I detected some worrying signs from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer today in his press conference. I think he's frustrated. I'm not having a pop at him. I said this last night. If he doesn't get the players he needs, he has been let down by the board 100%. He was asked a very direct. The last question of the press conference was very direct. He either misunderstood it or he swerved it, because the question was this: with only a little bit time left in the transfer window, and you're going into the new season, how important is it that you get your transfer business done by the transfer deadline day? And how does it affect your preparation, basically, was the question. He answered it: look, this is why pre-season's important. When the transfer window closes, that's when the league starts, and that's why we're working hard on pre-season. And then he went on about how the first 2 months of the season don't define where you're going to be, but they're a big start. That wasn't the question, Ollie. The question was about the transfer window and whether you're going to get the players in. And you spoke about the current squad and the pre-season. That's not the question. The question was about the transfer window and the lack of players that have been brought in. And Ollie focused on the current squad, which is a bit of a concern, because either he let's be fair, maybe he did misinterpret the question. But even if he did, he's talking about the squad that he's got, which is worrying, which is what we've seen time and time again with that board. And I'm not overly concerned yet. There's still time. He was asked a very good question by Simon Peach, who we've had on the channel, who said, what's the situation with transfers? And he said, look, we're still working on 1 or 2 deals. But I'm here to focus on the pre-season tour. That's what I'm here to do. And I think Ollie is distancing himself from transfers, because I think that much the same with Mourinho, probably the same with Van Gaal, probably the same with Moyes, to be fair. They give a list of the players that they want to the board to go and negotiate with, and then they find out what they get by transfer deadline day. And most seasons it's not gone the way the managers wanted. And at the moment, it's certainly not going the way that Ollie wants. I mean, Man Like Drew says he swerved that question. If he swerved that question, it's a concern. To swerve a question directly about transfers is a concern. But as I said again, this, you're going to get people calling Ole Gunnar Solskjaer a puppet and this, that and the other. What do you want him to do? What do you want him to do? He's been given the dream job at Manchester United. He can't come out in press conferences and say, I've been let down by the board. He'll be gone. He'll be gone within the hour. He's got to crack on with what he's got at the end of the day, hasn't he? He's got to crack on with what he's got. But at the moment, this is not ideal. This is not ideal at all. He was also asked, just to quantify and sort of ram this point home, he was asked a good question about Ander Herrera. With Ander Herrera gone, how do you fill that gap? And obviously I'm thinking Bruno Fernandes, but he can't. I wouldn't expect him to say that. But what he did say could be an insight into a very worrying thing. He said, well, we've got young players and we can change formations around a bit with the players that we've got. Oh, great. So one of our most significant players, because I feel that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had 3 good months at Manchester United where we played absolutely fantastically well between December and February. And within those 3 months, it was Ander Herrera who was massively intrinsic to that. So whatever you think about Herrera, I'm not saying he was like the world's best midfielder, but he was very important to that good vein of form we had. And that is relevant, not because of Ander Herrera. That's relevant because that was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's best period as a Manchester United manager. And that system was the best system that we played. And Ander Herrera's role as a box-to-box midfielder was very, very important in it. So you take Ander Herrera out, you're going to try a youngster in there, or you're going to change the formation around to go and buy a replacement. I mean, we're Manchester United. We're not Stoke City. We're not on the breadline. We're not verging on bankruptcy, so we've just got to make do with what we've got. We can go out and buy a proper replacement. And these things need to happen. And I still think, I've got to be honest, I still think we're going to be okay. I still think we'll get Harry Maguire and Bruno Fernandes. But I tell you what, with every passing day, of course anxiety and stress is going to start to seep into the fan base, because we've been here before. And I think that's the thing that stands out to me the most. we've been here before. Welcome to Chris Elbert, the latest member of the United Stand Members Club. But we have been here before, and that is why I can't sit here and honestly say to those people saying this is going to be another car crash transfer window, the board have let the manager down again. To those people, I think you're going to be wrong, but I can't categorically say you're going to be wrong because previous transfer windows show that this has happened. And to be honest with you, if we're sat here on August the 8th and Ollie hasn't got the transfers that he needed, can we be surprised? I think we will do, but, you know. Matthew Smith says, our board are haggling over such a small amount of money in the grand scheme of things. It's a joke for a club of our stature, small club mentality. Well, Matthew, at the end of the day, let's be quite frank about this. We are haggling on deals, but the point is, as well, we've got less than 3 weeks and we need to sign 4 players. Not going to happen, is it? And that's not going to happen because we've haggled on deals. If we'd had a director of football in... I mean, what I would say about Manchester United's transfer window from my point of view, having watched loads of transfer windows, not just United ones, you've seen, you know, you always keep an eye on... Because it's in the news, isn't it? You'll see how efficient people like Chelsea have been over the years, Manchester City have been over the years. What stands out to Manchester United to me is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and his coaching staff have put players forward, and then there's this big dark hole of like what's gone on. And if you have got a director of football or you have got yourself organised, these deals should have been pretty much sorted in April. You know, these players should have been sounded out in April, like even March. You know, this is, you're coming in the summer, we just got to sort it out with your club. What's very clear with United is all this haggling, we haven't sorted deals out. We've not sorted deals out at all. We're doing all the negotiating right at the end of the transfer window or right the way through the transfer window. It's a poor way to do your business, a very poor way to do your business. I mean, look at Eden Hazard to Real Madrid. That's a big deal. That is a big, big deal. He's Chelsea's best player. Some people think he's the best player in the Premier League. Chelsea have got a transfer ban. Chelsea do not want to sell Eden Hazard. Real Madrid buy him very, very quickly because that deal's been worked on for a long time. It's been worked on for a very long time. And Hazard's got like marketing rights, everything. Now, Harry Maguire isn't coming with a bloody 20-year Adidas deal and a modelling contract. He's Harry Maguire, English centre-back. He's just, you know, straight down the line. There's not a lot. It's not a massive deal to do, but we're taking ages on it. And this comes down to year after year, and I don't care about this. I don't care about what the people are as individuals. United at transfers, with the current people who do transfers, it's amateur. It is amateur. And they can think they're not amateur. You can think that you're really good at transfers, but you're not. I'm telling you right now, you are not good at transfers. You've proven it over the last 6 years. You're very, very average at them. Some would say poor, but you're not efficient at them. Hello, I always miss the live stream, so I woke up early to catch this one. It's 3 a.m, says the veteran Tranter. Thank you. And welcome to Paul Ingram, the latest member of the United Stand Members Club. Let's touch on some other things that Ollie said, and then we'll come back to some questions at the end. So he basically said that in the game against Inter Milan tomorrow, Lukaku will not be fit. There's nothing further to add. He will consider him for United games when he's back fit. I just think Lukaku's biding his time. I think he's waiting to see what happens. He wants to go to Inter Milan, and he's not going to commit to Manchester United until he knows what happens with Inter Milan. He did say that Luke Shaw and De Gea should feature tomorrow. Fred and Darmian, it's about what they do in the training session this morning. I've just got to say, actually, Flex actually somehow managed to get into the press conference today. Couldn't ask a question, but they are pitch side for training. So you will, on his vlog today, you will see pitch side, you know, footage of United lads training, which will be good. He said that with the team tomorrow, he's not planning on doing 11 aside one half and a different 11 the second half. Some people will play 60, 70 minutes. So he's starting to build in longer games now for players. So, you know, we might start to see a bit of a first team taking shape. He said he's looking for a decent game tomorrow. It's been a positive tour so far, and it's certainly a big stepping stone for United. There was some boring questions about Fred. Fred was asked about a lot. I don't know why in Singapore there's an obsession with Fred. I don't know. Maybe somebody would know that. But he did say the talent's there with Fred, and he hopes he steps up. Just have to see about how missing 10 days of training impacts on him. Obviously, he was getting married. He was asked about the Europa League and some of the younger players. He said, it's a chance for the youngsters to play, but we've got to try and go and win it. I don't believe that answer at all. I don't believe we're going to see Garner, Gomez, Chong starting in Europa League games and first team is left out. Europa League could be our best chance to get in the Champions League. I can't stand the fact we're in the Europa League. Thursday night football, bloody great, but that could be our best chance of getting in the Champions League. It's arguably easier to win the Europa League than it is to get in the top four. When you look at last season, the finalists of the Europa League were Arsenal and Chelsea. Chelsea never should have got in the top four. That was our fault. And Arsenal didn't get in the top four, but both get to the final of the Europa League. So Europa League's probably your best chance of Champions League football. So we can't just chuck the kids into it, and I don't think we will. Matic spoke. I mean, all I'll say about Nemanja Matic is he talks like he plays. I had a good night's sleep last night. I feel knackered listening to him. So slow. But he said that last season, we've got to do more, and we know this. And then, there was a question here as well. I mean, this is just a personal pet hate for mine. He was asked about Anthony Martial and how Martial's been here a few years now, so he needs to step up to the plate. Last time I checked, Martial was still in his early 20s. Is he 23? And it always seems to be Anthony Martial gets this question about him. And I liked the way Ollie answered it, really, because he said it's not just about Martial. Of course he needs to find some consistency, but it's the same with Marcus. It's the same with a couple of other players. But you know what? Why is it people like Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial always get asked about, is now the time for them to find some consistency? Well, I think it's a relevant question if you didn't have people who were 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34 who are even more inconsistent than they are. So, they focus on the Rashfords and Martials like they're the key to our future, and hopefully they are. But Martial and Rashford are young players. And yeah, it's great if they can get some consistency, but they're surrounded by senior players who are massively inconsistent. Like, I'm not even going to mention Pogba because I like Pogba, and I think there's no point having that conversation until we know he's staying. But certainly, Jesse Lingard, he's 27. Where's his consistency? Nemanja Matic, 30. Where's his consistency? Mata, there's Ashley Young. There's loads of players in that. Phil Jones. There's loads of players in that United team who are massively inconsistent. And I think this obsession with certainly Anthony Martial's consistency levels, I mean, it's almost a little bit like, what some of you lot say about people like Gary Neville and his obsession with the youth, but doesn't really replicate that with people like Martial and Pogba. I think we need to start looking at the collective team's consistency. And Matic is right, really. The whole team's got to step up to the plate. Welcome to the veteran trainer 88. And look, I think at this point, and let's just take some of your questions. Congratulations on 500,000 subscribers, says Philip Anderson. A quick recap, says Arena. Well, I'll do that recap because I know there's people who are going to join late. Please do smash a like on the video, everybody, and make sure you are subscribing to the channel. This is obviously the press conference reaction. We're nearly at 505,000 subscribers, so make sure you are subscribing. But look, I'll go back to the start here because the relevant points are, and he was asked about Paul Pogba as well. I must bring Paul Pogba in. So he was asked about Paul Pogba. Is his head in the right place? And he chose to, I think quite cleverly, take it into a bigger thing and say, look, it's not just about Paul Pogba. Everybody's working hard in training. It's about everybody being in the right place. And what he also said, in team meetings, everybody's more proactive. That's good because that shows that the players are more engaged. And if he's noticed that in pre-season, there was clearly a problem last season. So if the players are being more proactive now than they were last season, it shows that the hangover of Mourinho, who was a bit of a dictator, may be disappearing, and we may be moving on a little bit with that. But with regards to Pogba, look, I can't give you the answer on Pogba. I mean, the only logical thing is that he's going to stay. But is his head in the right place? A little bit non-committal from Ollie because he probably doesn't want to say too much. Same with Lukaku. And we go back to the start, don't we? So he was the final question Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was asked was basically, is this in a nutshell? The question was, the transfer window's nearly closing, the start of the season's nearly starting. Is it ideal that you haven't got your business done yet? That's basically how I interpreted the question. Ollie interpreted it in a different way, whether he swerved it or just didn't understand it. He started talking about pre-season, the squad he's got, and how it's important to have a good start to the season, and totally didn't talk about the fact that basically the journalist was asking you, is it ideal that you haven't got the players in that you need? And if they do come in, is it going to be too late? Ollie didn't even mention new signings. And I definitely detect a frustration from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer looked happy this morning. I don't know why that is, but, I think, from the things I've done, and a lot of you are probably the same, you can read a person. If I come on the United Stand tonight and I'm not having a gin on a Friday night, you'd go, oh, what's wrong with Mark? Something's gone wrong, And I looked at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer today and I didn't see he answered the questions positively about Singapore, but I didn't see an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer that I saw in the last press conference. I saw a little bit of frustration, and I think he came into it a little bit like there's something in his mind that he's not happy about, and that concerns me a little bit. I'm not going to jump and start saying this transfer window's a nightmare yet, because you can't do that till August the 8th. But every day that passes, you get a little bit more concerned. And let's not forget, even if we sign Harry Maguire this weekend, that's not the solution. Like, it's one of the solutions, but there's meant to be 4. There's got to be 2 midfielders as well as Harry Maguire, and ideally a right winger. But at the moment, we've got none of those, and time is running out. And I just think Ole is starting to... If you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and Jenski1102 says, do we have any youngsters who can step up and as first team players this year? In the midfield is where I would go with that. Is there anybody from the youth who can step up into the midfield this season? I mean, James Garner looks like a good player, but is he really ready? Would he even be playing for Bournemouth this year? So how can you expect him to fight for a top 4 position? The reality is, and the journalist who mentioned Herrera was spot on, what are you going to do about replacing Herrera, Ollie? Well, we've got some young players coming through, and we can always change the formation about. Yeah, but your best formation was the 4-3-3 with Herrera going box to box. What are you doing about that position? Well, we might tweak the formation a little bit. You might weaken your team then. Go out and get a bloody midfielder. And it's obvious. And as I said, I'm not having a pop at Ollie about this. I think he is as frustrated as probably a lot of you are. And it came across in that interview as far as I was concerned. Even if we get the players in, and I'm not saying we're not going to get the players in, because hopefully we still will, but even if we do, it's late, isn't it? And I think that's probably why he's frustrated. He might know he's going to get Longstaff and Bruno Fernandes, but he's still got a right to be pissed off, because he could be like, well, I am going to get them at some point in the next 3 weeks, but I've got no time to work with them. We're doing all this good pre-season work. We're blasting them. We're getting their fitness levels up. And 2 of the most important players to my team next year aren't even going to be part of that. So we're not going to hit the ground running. So there's different levels of how you can perceive that interview. You can go really negative and say he's pissed off because he's not getting any signings. I'm certainly not there. Or you could say he's not happy because even if he does get the players he wants, he hasn't had time to get them up to speed within the tactics and the fitness levels of what he wants. Because even if Harry Maguire, Bruno Fernandes do come into the team, if you play them against Chelsea, are their fitness levels as good? Can he even start them because their fitness levels aren't that good? You know what I mean? So you're not starting the season the way you want to. And I think that hopefully is why Ollie's pissed off. If he's pissed off because he's not getting them at all, we're in big, big trouble. Because I look at that midfield and I tell you now, it's a worry. That midfield is a massive worry. And for anybody who says, well, look at what happened with the class of 92, I will tell you time and time again, because I lived it. That year, 96, we did win the double. And I think that was the year where Cantona started off with the ban. And first game of the season, you can't win anything with kids. We lost to Aston Villa. But what people forget is, yeah, the class of 92, you got Giggs, Scholes, Beckham, but the Nevilles. But you had Steve Bruce, Schmeichel, Roy Keane, Cantona, Dennis Irwin, absolute legends of the club, leaders of the club, to nurture that brilliant young talent. So it doesn't matter how good Greenwood is, Gomez is, Chong is. You look at that United team, it doesn't have leaders and it doesn't have players of that level. So you can't just chuck the youth in and expect us to replicate the class of 92. It's going to be a long, long thing. And patience is always going to be important. But I've said this before. How can you be patient with the United team when you're sat there watching us lose games next season going, well, we're not losing games because we're not losing games because he's trying to nurture players. We're losing games because they didn't give him the players he needed in the summer. And that is the concern, I suppose. I just think, I've said this before, we've got to get some consistency. We've got to get some movement. We've got to get some momentum in this transfer window fast. We've got to get some players in fast, very fast. Otherwise, we're in problems. And I think, the thing I would take away from that press conference is it's the uncertainty. Yeah, it's exciting we're playing a game tomorrow, but I said this after the Leeds game. I enjoyed the game, but that team's not good enough to get us top 4. Where's the players? They're exhibition games, aren't they? It's like, oh, it's nice to see Daniel James. It's nice to see Wan-Bissaka. Pogba played really well, but that team's not good enough. When are we going to bring the players in? And maybe this is why Ollie's getting frustrated. And it's certainly been a frustration and concern for the United fans all the time. Emmanuel Mfon says that midfield needs a huge boost. I'm scared that if we don't buy Bruno Fernandes and another quality midfielder, we're trouble and no top 4. I'd agree with that. I would agree with that, absolutely. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer didn't look happy today in that press conference at all. Anyway, we've got a lot of content coming up for you today on the United Stand, because Flex is actually right at the training session now with Josh. They'll be filming some stuff. That's going to go up for you at lunchtime. And what else? I'll be back again at 8 o'clock live tonight with a gin, and hopefully we'll start to see some development with the transfer today. We've got to see something coming up over this weekend. We can't go to Monday and still be where we are today. We just can't. Get your comments in below. What did you think about the interview? You know, why do you think Ole wasn't happy? Yeah, but what I want to just say is, I'm not angry with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I feel that this is now what we saw with Mourinho, what we saw with Moyes especially. You know, Moyes didn't get back to that first summer. He ended up with bloody Fellaini. Moyes was a clown, but they didn't back him. And I feel at the moment, this is not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's fault. This is the board's fault, and they need to sort it out fast. There's still time, but they're running out of it. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you at lunchtime with that vlog, some training action. Really looking forward to that. I bet we're not signing anyone else. The board needs to change his emperor. I tell you what, I'll say this now at the end of the video. If Manchester United don't sign anybody else, there's going to be big problems at that club next season, on and off the pitch. But I think we all know that. Thanks for watching. I'll speak to you all soon.